Good evening and welcome. Now, the only surviving member of the so-called Islamic State cell that attacked Paris in November 2015 is appearing in public for the first time since his arrest nearly 2 years ago. Salah Abdeslam goes on trial in his hometown of Brussels today. The charges Abdeslam faces in Brussels are not related to events in Paris, but to a shootout he had with police while on the run in Belgium. Security is high at the Brussels courthouse, with armed guards and multiple checkpoints leading to the courtroom where Abdeslam is to appear. More than 100 police are expected to be deployed in and around the mammoth 19th century Palace of Justice, which dominates a skyline over the Renaissance city centre. Meanwhile, Abdeslam's trial in France is not expected until next year. He was not charged over the Islamic State's suicide bombings in Brussels a week after the shootout and 4 days after his arrest, though prosecutors say the March 22 attacks, which killed 32 people, were triggered by the cell's fear that Abdeslam might reveal plans for a new attack in France under interrogation. All right, joining me now live from Brussels is WION's correspondent Jacques Parra. Good evening, Jacques, or should I say good afternoon where you are. What's the latest you're hearing about this court appearance by the accused?
Well, it's just resumed after the lunchtime session. It's just after 1:30 here in Brussels. And this morning we heard a little bit more from Salah Abdeslam than we expected to. Since his arrest, he has not spoken and given any information to French prosecutors and French investigators. And today, this huge operation to get him here, this enormous security operation, has resulted in him saying to the court that he will remain silent. But the fact that he said that is significant. He says that his silence is his defence, and blamed the court for an anti-Muslim bias, saying that he is not presumed to be innocent until proven guilty within this court.
Also, Jack, what do you make of his comments that the Muslims in general are viewed mercilessly? How would you interpret or view his remark?
Well, this is exactly what he has said in the court. He said that he thinks that Muslims in Europe are treated mercilessly, and that he, doesn't really respect the court. We assume from that. This is going to be a 4-day trial. What we're waiting to hear now is whether he will plead guilty or not. But this is a really important, significant trial here in Brussels. He's only being charged with attempted murder with terrorist intentions regarding the shootout that happened just before he was arrested. But the people here in Brussels that saw that attack on March the 22nd, 2016, and 32 people being killed in this city, everybody sees this as the opportunity for justice and to hear exactly what happened and what this terrorist cell was planning and what they were doing. So his silence is affecting, obviously, a lot of the discussion here. One Belgian newspaper even said that his silence is the ultimate form of violence.
And very quickly, Jack, how much of media attention is this trial getting in Belgium and across Europe? Also, how quickly or how soon can we expect the verdict in this trial?
We really don't know much about the administration, how long the trial will last at the moment. We know there's 4 days of it set up today, but it will depend on his plea, it will depend on the evidence that's given, on what the lawyers put forward, how much they want to interrogate different witnesses, etc. So at the moment we don't know too much about the length, but this is the start of just one aspect of court dates. So this man, Salah Abdeslam, the 28-year-old, is presumably going to spend a lot of time in court over the coming years. Firstly here for this trial in Brussels, but also for the trial in France. And everybody in France and Belgium has got their eye on this trial. The Belgian media have a huge presence here, but also the international media. It was such a media storm when those 6 months through the Paris and Brussels attacks and the manhunt for Salah Abdeslam.
All right, on that note, Jacques Parra, thank you for speaking to WION. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, shifting focus from South to West Asia now. Saddam Hussein's daughter, Ragad, is one of the most wanted people in Iraq for allegedly being associated with the Daesh. Al-Qaeda or the Ba'ath Party founded by her dictator father. Now, Iraqi security services have published the names of 60 such people. The list also features 28 suspected Daesh terrorists, 12 from Al-Qaeda and 20 Baathists. Now, all those on the wanted list are Iraqis, apart from a Lebanese man accused of recruiting fellow citizens to fight in Iraq. Now, Saddam Hussein's daughter currently lives in Jordan. According to a senior security official in Iraq, these are the terrorists most wanted by the judicial authorities and the security services in the country. Now, this is the first time that these names have been published on a list which was secret until now. So these are the visuals of Raghav on your screens now, and I'm now joined by WION's own A Pagani, joining us from Amman in Jordan. Good evening, Daniele. What do you make of this publication of this list and the inclusion of Raghav, Saddam's daughter, in the list? But notable absentee would be Daesh's leader, Baghdadi himself.
Good evening to you, Ramesh, and good evening to our viewers. There are different perspectives regarding this list. The first of all that came to my mind is that, remember, that Iraq is going to election very soon, in 2 months, so the government needs to show that it's acting strongly against all what it considers enemies of the country. The second is that Raghan Hussein is not being looked at for the first time when it comes to Baghdad. In fact, Baghdad had requested many times the country of Jordan, where I am right now, to extradite Saddam Hussein's daughter. Jordan always denied it because they said that as per the Arab country rules, she was protected by the Hashemite royal family. By the way, as of now, she claimed in an interview to the Saudi Arabian channel Al Arabiya that she does not live in Jordan anymore. The third aspect that comes to my mind is that the Iraqi government is trying also to tackle all individuals who still sit on relevant portions of the richness, the economic wealth of Iraq. Remember that when Raghan Hussein left Iraq in 2006, she left with millions of dollars worth of with millions of dollars which came directly from her father's inheritance. So these three perspectives. Very curiously, as you pointed out, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is not on this list, and as of now the Iraqi government is refusing to comment these very relevant absentee.
And also very quickly, Daniele, what's the situation you're picking up about Iraq itself, given the fight against Daesh still continues in some parts of West Asia as we speak?
Absolutely, yes. Despite what the Iraqi government is telling to the world, saying that the victory has come and the Islamic State is defeated, this is not entirely accurate. There are portions of land, the southern part of the Nineveh Plains, especially on the border with Syria, between the two countries. Halfway through the border, there are still pockets where the Islamic State is active. Also, the Islamic State is reportedly building bases inside the desert. One of these bases, and this is an information coming from one of the Shia militias active on the ground on the border between Iraq and Syria, one of these bases is big enough to hide vehicles underground. So what the Islamic State is doing right now is using the last fighters, A, to conduct terrorist attacks everywhere in the Middle East, or at least to plan them, B, to try to keep fighting against the Shia militias and the militias active on the border between Syria and Iraq. Unfortunately, this means that the war is not over.
All right. A Pagani, thank you for your inputs. Now, India has been the largest troop contributor to United Nations missions since its inception. So far, India has taken part in 43 peacekeeping missions. Now, WION is on ground zero exploring what it takes for Indian Army personnel to serve in a foreign land. WION is the only channel covering the Indian peacekeeping troops in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. All right, joining me live is WION's own Karthikeya Sharma. Good evening, Karthikeya, or should I say good afternoon where you are. First up, we've been seeing your reportage over the last couple of days. What's the morale of the troops like there, and how significant is their contribution on the ground?
I think, Shishi, I'll answer that question in two parts. When it comes to the morale or the issue, the problem is you would be aware that the elections are being inordinately delayed, and that creates political instability. Now there are budget cuts, and so there's a related pressure on the United Nations peacekeeping mission to ensure that the area remains stabilized despite less numbers. For example, India had 3,700 plus troops here. The number had gone down to 3,000. So these are related challenges. For example, something which was called security by presence has been turned into, protection by projection. Though a lot of people would say that, these are nuances, but the fact of the matter is numbers are less. But the job done by Indian military in Congo is, I would say, exemplary. Indian soldiers cover a territory which is far more than Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh put combined, or you can say Madhya Pradesh and Vidarbha of Maharashtra put combined, which is like 200 square kilometer per person when it comes to the security. So that way the contribution has been immense, but in the post-Trump world, in the post-Insular America world, I think the UN and UN deployment will further undergo a lot of changes.
And also very quickly, Karthikeyan, now 43 peacekeeping missions by India in the last several decades. What are the bigger takeaways from you, from your interaction with the troops on the ground, their concerns, their challenges and their priorities on the ground as you interacted with them?
I would answer your question, Ramesh, like that. I think the biggest achievement of the Indian security forces have been that despite being armed to the teeth, they have tried to work around their way with the local communities. I think that soft touch, respecting the local tradition, accommodating them, it's like running a Sadbhavna at an international level. The Sadbhavna program, which is run in Kashmir, they have tried to replicate it at an international level, whereby their projection and perception by local community is very good. And I think that's the success of the Indian Army.
All right, on that note, Karthikeyan, thank you for your inputs. That was WION's Karthikeyan Sharma bringing you daily reports from the Congo about India's peacekeeping operations on the ground there.
In the dense jungles of the Congo, where peace is in short supply, WION's Karthikeyan Sharma joins the Indian Army's peacekeeping mission.
The Indian military, as working part and parcel of the United Nations peacekeeping force.
From tasting the local food to a day in the life of our men in Congo. Join WION as we track the Indian Army on its UN mission.
WION has been given access to cover the exemplary role played by Indian military as part of the United Nations peacekeeping mission in Congo.
Blue helmets in Congo. Ground report only on WION. World is One News.
All right, moving on. Heavy snow in Moscow has left one person dead and 5 others injured, but also causing massive traffic jams and delay of flights. And more than 100 flights have been delayed and nearly 30 flights were cancelled in major airports in Moscow. The Federal Meteorological Center in Russia has said that the snowfall has turned out to be one of the heaviest in 60 years. The height of snow ranks has reached 43 centimeters. Local authorities have dispatched 15,000 snow-removing vehicles and nearly 70,000 sanitation workers to clear the snow within 24 hours to avoid any more accidents. Now, days of snow triggered a sharp increase in traffic accidents and severely impacted urban transportation. 19 accidents occurred last Saturday in Moscow, injuring more than 20 people. All right, joining me live from Moscow is WION's Lucy. Good evening. What do you make of this unprecedented snowfall this year in Moscow?
Yes, hello. Well, state news agencies here are calling this the blizzard of the century because apparently this is the most snow that's fallen in one go in the 21st century, and in fact, even since the year 1957. You might be able to see some of it through the window behind me. These are the streets of Moscow today, where it is still snowing, although the temperature has dropped a lot today, so the snow is somewhat lighter. But we're told over the weekend there were as many as 38 centimetres of snow. That's about 15 inches, and it's even as much snow as Moscow would normally expect in the whole of February already, even this early into the month.